Chapter 9. The New Normal. 9 months. It had been 9 months since the day everything changed. The day Ash and Dawn had encountered Arceus, and found themselves inexplicably transformed into each other's bodies. 9 months since their worlds had been turned upside down, since they had been forced to confront their identities in ways they never could have imagined. 9 months of struggle, growth, and, ultimately, acceptance. The mirror. Ash, now Dawn, stood in front of the mirror in their shared room at a small inn, just outside Arceus City. The reflection staring back at him was one he had grown used to over time, but it still felt strange in moments like this, when he stood alone and allowed himself to really look. She was undeniably Dawn now. Her face was soft, delicate, with high cheekbones and wide, expressive eyes. Her lips were full and pink, framed by long dark lashes that curved naturally upward. Her hair, a silky cascade of blue-black waves, tumbled over her shoulders, brushing the top of the cotton tank top she wore. The body beneath it was lithe and feminine. Soft curves where Ash had once been all angles and muscle. Her waist tapered in sharply, leading to rounded hips that filled out the skirt she had chosen for the day. A simple, flowing piece that ended just above her knees. Even after 9 months, it was still surreal to see Dawn's face. Her face, staring back at her in the mirror. But the initial shock had long since worn off. What had once been a source of discomfort and confusion had gradually become something she had come to accept and even appreciate. A knock on the door pulled her out of her thoughts. "Dawn? You in there?" The voice was deep, familiar, and very much her own. Ash, now Dawn, smiled softly. "Yeah, I'm here." The door creaked open, and Ash stepped into the room. He was the perfect replica of Ash Ketchum. From the messy black hair that spiked outward to the strong muscular build that had once belonged to him. Ash sold clothes, cargo pants and a loose t-shirt, fit Dawn's new body perfectly, though they now hung a little looser than they had when Ash had originally worn them. "You ready to go?" Dawn, now Ash, asked, leaning casually against the doorframe. Dawn turned back to the mirror, adjusting the strap of her tank top. "Yeah, just finishing up." Ash, Dawn, nodded, giving a small smile. "You look good." Dawn chuckled softly, running her fingers through her hair. "Thanks, I think I'm finally getting the hang of this." There was a pause, a comfortable silence that had become familiar between them. Over the past few months, they had been through so much together, faced challenges that no one else could understand. And yet, here they were, stronger than ever. They had settled into their new roles, their new bodies, and while it hadn't been easy, they had come out the other side with a deeper understanding of themselves and each other. Dawn took one last look in the mirror, before turning to face Ash. "Let's go." Adjusting to the new normal. As they walked through the streets of Arceus City, Dawn couldn't help but notice the way people looked at them. It had been happening more and more lately. People staring, whispering, trying to make sense of the changes they had undergone. They were unrecognizable to most, but to those who knew them, friends, trainers, even Brock, the transformation was nothing short of astonishing. It had taken months for Ash and Dawn to truly settle into their new identities. At first, they had resisted, clinging to the hope that they could somehow reverse the changes, that they could return to being themselves. But as time passed, they had come to realize that the transformations were permanent. They had no choice but to adapt. And adapt, they did. The decision to swap names had come naturally over time. It had started as a joke, a way to lighten the mood during their more difficult moments. Ash had called Dawn by his name one day, laughing as she fumbled with her Pokeballs, and she had responded in kind. But the more they used each other's names, the more fitting it had felt. Dawn was now Ash, and Ash was now Dawn. It was how people saw them, how they saw themselves. It just made sense. Ash, now Dawn, had embraced her new appearance fully. She had grown her hair out, styling it in the same way Dawn had always done, and had even started wearing Dawn's clothes exclusively. The skirts, the dresses, the blouses, they had all become a part of her new identity. At first it had felt strange, uncomfortable even. But over time, she had come to appreciate the softness of the fabrics, the way the clothes hugged her new curves in a way that felt right. There was a certain freedom in it, she realized. She no longer felt the pressure to be strong, to be tough. She could be soft, delicate, and still be herself. The confidence that had once come so easily to her as Ash had returned, but in a different form. She had learned to carry herself with grace, to move with the fluidity that had once defined Dawn. She was still Ash, but she was a new version of herself, a version that she had come to love. Dawn, now Ash, had undergone a similar transformation. At first, she had struggled with the sheer physicality of her new body, the strength, the weight, the way her muscles flexed and moved with every step. But over time, she had come to appreciate the power that came with it. She had always been agile, quick on her feet, but now she was strong too. She could lift more, run faster, hit harder. Her body was a tool, and she had learned how to use it to her advantage. She had also started wearing Ash's old clothes exclusively. The baggy jeans, the loose t-shirts, the baseball cap. It all felt right on her new body. She had even started mimicking Ash's old mannerisms. The way he walked, the way he stood, the way he carried himself with that easygoing confidence that had always defined him. It had become second nature to her now, and she found comfort in it. As they walked through the bustling streets of Hartham, Ash glanced over at Dawn, a small smile tugging at the corners of her lip. "You still good with the plan for the day?" Dawn nodded, her hands stuffed casually into her pocket. "Yeah, we'll hit the market first, then head over to the gym. I want to get a few more training sessions in before we move on to the next city." Ash chuckled. "You're really getting into the whole training thing, huh?" Dawn grinned, her eyes sparkling with mischief. "What can I say? I've got the body for it now." Ash rolled her eyes playfully, but there was a warmth in her smile. It was moments like these, light-hearted easy, that reminded her of how far they had come. They had been through so much, but they had come out the other side stronger, more certain of who they were. Friends and reactions. Later that day, they met up with Brock at a small cafe near the edge of town. Brock had been one of the few people who had known about the transformation from the beginning, and he had been supportive from the start, though even he had been astonished by how much Ash and Dawn had changed. As they approached the table, Brock looked up from his cup of coffee, his eyes widening slightly as he took in their appearances. Even after months of seeing them like this, it still took him a moment to adjust. "Hey, you two," Brock said, giving them a warm smile. "You're looking well." Ash and Dawn exchanged amused glances before sitting down. "Thanks," Ash said, smoothing out the skirt she was wearing. "We're doing pretty well." Brock leaned back in his chair, studying them carefully. "It's still hard to believe sometimes. You've both changed so much." Dawn, now Ash, smirked, crossing her arms over her chest. "Yeah, we get that a lot." Brock's gaze shifted from Ash to Dawn, his expression thoughtful. "How have the others reacted? I mean, people like Misty, Gary, your mom? Ash bit her lip, her fingers playing with the hem of her skirt. It took some time for everyone to adjust. My mom was, well, she was shocked at first. But she's been really supportive. She always said that no matter what I look like on the outside, I'll always be her son. Dawn now. Ash nodded. Zame with my mom. She was worried at first, but once she saw that I was still me, still Dawn, just in a different body, she came around. She's been really understanding. Brock smiled, his eyes softening. That's good to hear. I've been amazed at how well you've both handled this. It can't have been easy. Ash and Dawn exchanged a glance, a silent understanding passing between them. It hadn't been easy. Far from it. The first few months had been filled with confusion, frustration, and a deep sense of loss. They had both felt like they were losing themselves, like they were being forced into roles they didn't know how to play. But over time, they had learned that their identities weren't tied to their bodies. They were still Ash and Dawn, no matter what form they took. It wasn't easy, Dawn admitted, leaning back in her chair. But we've grown a lot because of it. I think we're both stronger now. Ash nodded, in agreement. Yeah, I think we've both learned a lot about ourselves, about who we are, beyond just the physical stuff. Brock's smile widened, a sense of pride in his eye. I always knew you two were special. You've always been stronger together than apart. Internal reflection. That night, as they lay in their separate beds in the small inn, Ash found herself reflecting on the journey they had been on. 9 months ago, she had been Ash Ketchum, confident, brash, and always ready for a challenge. She had been a boy of action, someone who thrived on the thrill of battle and the rush of adventure. But now, as she lay there in the quiet darkness, she realized that she had become something more. She was still Ash, still the same person who loved the thrill of adventure and the joy of Pokémon battle. But she had also learned to appreciate the softer, quieter moments. The moments of reflection, of self-awareness, that had always come more naturally to Dawn. She had grown into her new identity, embraced it fully, and in doing so, had discovered parts of herself she hadn't known existed. Across the room, Dawn, now Ash, was having similar thoughts. She had always been the more introspective of the two, the one who took time to think things through before acting. But over the past 9 months, she had learned to embrace the physicality of her new body, to take action without hesitation, to trust her instincts in a way that had once been foreign to her. She had become more confident, more assertive, and in doing so, had found a new sense of strength within herself. As they lay there in the quiet, both Ash and Dawn realized that they had not just swapped bodies. They had swapped perspectives, swapped experiences, and in doing so, had become more complete versions of themselves. The future. The next morning, they stood on the outskirts of Hartham City, their bags packed and ready for the next leg of their journey. The sun was just beginning to rise, casting a warm glow over the horizon. Ash, now Dawn, adjusted the strap of her bag, glancing over at Dawn, now Ash, with a small smile. You ready? Dawn, Ash nodded, her eyes filled with determination. Yeah, let's go. As they walked down the path, side by side, they knew that the journey ahead would be filled with challenges. But they were ready. They had faced the impossible and come out stronger, more certain of who they were, regardless of the bodies they inhabited. They had learned to see the world through each other's eyes, and in doing so, had discovered new depths within themselves. No matter what lay ahead, they knew one thing for certain. They were still Ash and Dawn. And that would never change. A new kind of strength. As they disappeared into the horizon, the bond between them stronger than ever, they knew that they had found a new kind of strength. One that transcended physical form, one that came from within. The world might see them differently now, but they knew the truth. They were still themselves. And that was all that mattered.